It's the result we all wanted. Powerhouse Hobbs is the new TNT champion. We're going to talk about how we got there and our immediate reactions when he carried that belt aloft in today's episode of WrstlXtra. Stay tuned.
Oh, yo, it's a Tuesday. Yes, it is. This is a WrstlXtra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate. Of course, joined by my trios team, Mex, the WrestleManiac, if you will, and the professor that is Gerard Bonner. Powerhouse Hobbs, Powerhouse Hobbs is the new TNT champion. All done in very controversial fashion, but in a beautifully done way for me. We'll get into it in a second. But Powerhouse Hobbs defeated Wardlow in a last man standing match for the TNT Championship. Of course, shenanigans were involved. QT Marshall decided to step in and get involved. Now, the interesting part about this, and we'll get into this part now. The interesting part about this is the night before, Wardlow tweeted and shared a video on Twitter at the fact that his car was broken into, the rental car that he had was broken into, all his gear was stolen, all his stuff stolen from the car, including the TNT Championship. Now, he then addressed the situation on Dynamite the following evening and said, I've got no gear. Someone decided to lend me a t-shirt. He had the FTR 7-star t-shirt on, his great friend, and had no real, had no wrestling gear. So he had his normal clothes, jeans, and all the rest of it, and said, you know what, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna do this thing, last man standing. QT Marshall gets involved, as I said, and out of nowhere, QT Marshall has the TNT Championship in his hand to give to Powerhouse Hobbs, who just won. Apparently, on the debut of QTV, I love it. QTV, we will find out who really stole Wardlow's stuff and broke into his car. Gerard, now I know me and you kind of quickly spoke about this in the week. Give me your thoughts on this whole thing and where is this whole thing going?
Well, let's start here because I believe it was right around this time last week when I was certain that we were going to see a new TNT champion, and someone here just did not believe it. Just said, there's no way, they're not going to pull the trigger. It's not going to happen. No way, no how, no chance. Well, Powerhouse is our champion, and I am here for it. I told you that the hot potato that is the TNT Championship would find its way quickly into Powerhouse Hobbs. Now, I have to say this. We have given AEW a hard time over time because of their storytelling or seeming lack thereof. We all thought when we got the news about this, break-in with Wardlow, like, yo, this is horrible. Like, who would do such a thing? I don't think anybody thought it would be connected to this story. And even with Dynamite talking about it, they are known for talking about the things that really do happen. So at no point was I alarmed at all until QT. And matter of fact, when QT walked out with the belt, I thought, well, they got a replica, they got another one or what have you.
Right.
So this is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. And I love it. I mean, we do a lot of things with this. We keep Powerhouse as, an angry heel who has had dastardly ways. We get him connected to QT Marshall, which is not a bad thing at all. QT and the factory really didn't go all the places it needed to go. And with Cody gone, the factory really didn't have the kind of feud that they needed as opposed to feuding with, the Nightmare family. So all of this makes so much sense. Now we get QTV, we get Powerhouse Hobbs, who I don't think will be a victim of the hot potato syndrome anytime soon. This all works for me. You know, it checks a lot of boxes. And quite frankly, with this being a last man standing match, all of it is legal. All of it. So it's brilliant. It was great. I loved every bit of it. The face of the revolution really does have a face and a championship to go with it.
Oh yeah, and that's the fact, because Powerhouse Hobbs becomes the first person to actually win his opportunity after winning the face of the revolution ladder match as well. Mex is so tight-lipped. I know he has a whole lot to say. I'm just seeing him like,
yeah.
Go for it.
It's rant o'clock, people. Like, let's go for it.
Here we go.
Let's go.
I'm very happy about the end result, right? Don't get me wrong. How they've, you know, basically kayfabed the breaking into the vehicle. You know, I even said when I saw that thing first thing in the morning and I saw that had happened to Wardlow after Revolution, I was actually hoping it's Samoa Joe. I said it would be brilliant if Samoa Joe is not ready to give up the title of King of TV and he's taken his title back. Because we were here saying that, you know, it probably should have been Samoa Joe to do the honors anyway to put over Hobbs if that was going to be the case. QT Marshall. This is like Gerard said, the storytelling here was brilliant because QT Marshall has previously made reference, you know, when Hobbs kind of went solo initially, just before the Book of Hobbs stuff started taking off, that I've got your back, I'm here. Whether Hobbs wanted that help or not, they had made reference to it on screen and it was just there in the background. They haven't really been playing on it at all. And this is where it came to light. It was QT that done it. He broke into the car. He done this to help Hobbs. My one thing that I'm not too happy about is it's the powerhouse. Like, was he displayed as a powerhouse with that potential help? I get it from a story point of view. And like I said, I'm not, you know, poo-pooing it or anything, but I'm not sure if that really helped get over the powerhouse, especially this is the guy they've been building. He looked like a mad guy in the ladder match that he won to get this opportunity. You see what I mean? So it's almost to take. I see it in the comments here. Will Chisholm says, even when a black man wins, the white man gets the credit. I wouldn't go as far as saying that, but I would definitely say that obviously QT helped him, you know, still chaired all of that first. The power bomb as a finish onto that like less than 2 foot drop platform. It's like, and I am nitpicking here, but I just feel like this is the guy you're almost anointing. You repackaged him as Powerhouse Hobbs. Like the first win, the title win, could have been a bit more dominant. Like, yes, you probably done a lot of this stuff as well to protect Wardlow, which I get, but Wardlow is just spinning out of control right now. I'm not sure if he needed that protection per se, and he'll probably bounce back. He's probably going straight into a title picture of MJF. So I don't know if he needed to be protected per se, but happy that the Hobbs won. I just have a bit of, you know, some questions here and there with the affiliation and how it kind of came to pass.
To be fair, that you make a lot of sense actually in the whole thing of the way Powerhouse was built up, but then it takes QT to help him win. I guess, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it would have been better if they just put on a banger match and then Powerhouse just wins it, how he wins it, and we carry on. That way, it's still, you know, Wardlow would still look great because it's a last man standing match. Like, you know, it's going to be difficult for anyone to beat anyone in a last man standing match. So he's going to have to put everything into it. But at the same time,
there was an element of Hobbs not being aware of QT's involvement.
Yeah,
like he did play off very well that like, you know, this guy's come out of nowhere basically. All right, he's helping me. I'm a heel. I'm not going to say no. And I continue with it. He did play kind of surprised. But yeah, I just don't know. And at the same time, the factory, I think officially are disbanded. I think that's actually come out, like the factory aren't a thing anymore. QT has been kind of seen in a bit of a comedic role, or, you know, high level jobber, however you want to put it. I'm not sure if it's kind of a connection you want to make with someone you're trying to, kind of take to the next stage.
Yeah. I think it is kind of, it does tarnish Powerhouse just a little bit, but I don't think it's enough to make me then disbelieve that Powerhouse actually is who they're trying to build him to be. Jared, what are your thoughts on this whole QT Powerhouse connection?
I think it's still to fully be determined, like I liked the idea that QT is trying to align himself with Powerhouse, and we still aren't fully sure if they are like aligned as in Powerhouse is accepting it.
Right.
Kind of reminds me of how MVP had been trying to align himself with Bobby Lashley, and Lashley still had to choose, do I accept this or not? So I think we have some time for that to play out. I don't think it weakens Hobbs at all, because it's really more so QT trying to latch himself to Hobbs. Let me prove myself to you, versus Hobbs actually needing that. So I think they even played that off very well. So now you don't really know, okay, did they really plan all of this all along? Or is QT trying really, really hard to get in Hobbs' good graces so Hobbs will be like, yeah, this is my man, So I think there's still some of that story left to be told. And then whatever they tell with that, I think it becomes cool, because now you don't know, if Hobbs is accepting this, Hobbs becomes more dangerous, because now you've got somebody potentially watching your back. I don't think this is like a tag team as much as it's more of an advisory kind of situation. And in that case, QT doesn't become the high level, jobber, as you mentioned. It's different, because now you're taking that managerial piece, which means I don't need you to team with me. I just need you to pull somebody's leg or throw in a foreign object or some foolishness like that. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
I mean, there's another way it could easily go. With Powerhouse, I've seen that as much as he's being built to be this aggressive guy, the fans are getting behind him. So there's an easy way for this to go, in a sense where whether it's straight away, it could easily happen straight away, where Powerhouse could get rid of QT very quickly, and the crowd would be behind him, and he could then be a babyface like straight away. I don't think he's kind of on that tweener kind of level at the minute, where he's a dangerous guy, but he's not a full on heel,
right?
You know what I mean? So it could go anyway. So he's in a good position in that respect. And of course, being champion, what do you think's next for this TNT Championship? Are we going to get Wardlow coming straight back at him? Because obviously, this whole thing with the car situation is still there, up in the air, as much as we kind of know who did it. But does Wardlow disappear and we get a new competitor, or are we kind of still going to see Wardlow hovering around Hobbs for a little bit longer? Max, what do you think?
I think there's probably more here. I think more than anything, what they've identified here is maybe Hobbs might have some weaknesses still, maybe in just terms of promo mic related stuff, and QT is just a good he's kind of that a bit of like a sleazy bit of a character, where he can, as Gerard was saying, be like this kind of manager, advisory kind of person, pull strings for Hobbs. Hobbs just goes out and kind of conducts the destruction of it all. I guess I can liken it a bit to what they tried with Brian Cage and Taz, but what I would definitely say is that Hobbs has a lot more going for him charisma wise than Brian Cage does, and they've obviously, that Cage and Taz pairing was very early into AEW. Hobbs we've seen for a long time now. Fans are even somewhat on his side, and they've wanted to see this. So I think Hobbs has a lot more to offer in terms of that, on that side of things than Brian Cage. So I think they are going to actually play into this a bit more. And yeah, it will kind of make, it's almost like a repackaging for QT as well, to get him away from some of that joking kind of behaviors and let him be taken a bit more seriously, even if he's as a manager kind of position.
Is there anyone else apart from Wardlow, maybe still a Samoa Joe? Is there anyone else in AEW at the moment who you feel would be a good contender, to give Hobbs a good feud for the TNT Championship?
Well, there is a name that comes to mind, and I don't know if this is going to happen sooner or later. I hope that it's later, because I get the feeling that if it is later, it's going to result in a certain way, and that is Jungle Boy. I think Jungle Boy, now that he's done with Christian, has been talking about he's going to be a champion before the end of the year. It makes sense that the TNT title would be that title, but I hope that we don't get that immediately. I think we need to work our way to that, let Powerhouse beat up on a few people, which I think would be interesting. Now, here's where this gets interesting. If we find out from QTV that Q, as in QT, did not actually vandalize this car, the question is who? And I in my little fantasy booking brain, it would actually make sense that MJF did it. And here's why. The idea that MJF walks in success and Wardlow wins the title the same night that MJF retains against Bryan Danielson is something MJF doesn't like, because this is putting us on the same level, because now we're both champions. I'm the only one that should get shine. I'm MJF. So, boom. Let me knock your car out, cost you your title, so you'll always be below me. Wardlow finds out. Boom. Now we've got a program for Wardlow and MJF. Then this now asks the question, okay, so QT, why did I need you again? And now we've got development in both spots. So if QT is now being rejected, QT now has to hitch himself to somebody else who now is going to challenge for the TNT Championship. So I think there are multiple ways this thing could go, where everybody wins and we get some lengthy title reigns in both spaces, ultimately leading to Jungle Boy getting his shot at the TNT title.
So I think with just in terms of the title picture, it's either going to go one of two ways. Wardlow will fill this hole of in between now and Double or Nothing, which is in May, is it?
In May, yes.
Yeah, so Wardlow might be like the contender in between. To be honest, they might just wait, to be honest. And maybe they do MJF and Wardlow at the pay-per-view, or they're doing MJF and Jungle Boy at the pay-per-view. I personally think it's one of those two matches. With Hobbs, he has to go on, the kill streak, stuff that we've seen akin with Miro. It has to be that level of, consulting the book of Hobbs. Who is the next victim? Bring him out. Let me flog him and then bring the next one next week. Like that kind of rotating door, and kind of done in different interesting ways, maybe some stipulation matches here and there. Where this ends, if we're allowed to foreshadow where it ends already, is somewhere down the line, and it's got to be with Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks has to be the man to dethrone Hobbs and become the TNT champion. It's just a matter of how long they give this title reign. The TNT championship tends to be at least on the long side, like maybe 2 months, a 2-month stretch as champion, which will take us to literally Double or Nothing. But maybe they give Hobbs somewhere in between. A TV loss could happen. But yeah, I'll bet my money now, early doors, that Ricky Starks would be the person to dethrone him.
It's interesting because recently, obviously, I think it was just last week, Ricky Starks did his promo after beating Jericho and was saying he's going to go elsewhere. And then obviously he's then jumped by Juice Robinson, who's coming from New Japan. So it looks like, he's already got his hands full with his next little feud, which would be nice, which is, exactly what we said last week, where we said, as much as we want to see Hobbs and Starks go at it, we don't want that to happen straight away. So it's going to be interesting to see if Ricky Starks' activity and Hobbs' activity is or Hobbs' title reign kind of a parallel, and then they meet. Hopefully it's not going to be a thing where, Hobbs loses it before Ricky is ready to kind of jump at a championship, because that is a match I would love to see them two at for a championship, and not just I'm better than you, and who's going to get the push from there. So that should be very, very interesting. So moving on from this one, talking about challenges and championships, We know that on Wednesday, Dynamite is happening in Canada, and Jade Cargill, in another backstage promo, anyway, was put out the challenge, or was asked the question: "We're going to Canada. You're now 53 and 0. You know, who do you think your next challenger is going to be?" And she's like, "Bring anyone, any of you Canadians that are out there. You know, let's do it." Who do we think this could possibly be? Mex, I'm going to go to you first. Who do you think this Canadian challenger for Jade's TBS Championship could possibly be?
The internet is screaming Taya Valkyrie.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying it's her. She's a, you know, apart from obviously her Latin heritage, she's Canadian. And I believe whatever contract she had with Impact, she's just kind of finished it up. She's, you know, she's got the I think it's the women's AAA title. She was previously the tag team champion over in Impact. Like everyone knows who Taya Valkyrie is anyway. I don't need to say her CV. Like that's someone that they've probably you know can arrange now that she has no ties to any major company, if you like, to come in and put on a good match with Jade. Ultimately for Jade to win again. But I would like to think, even if that is the case, there is something that happens literally immediately following this match, which sets up who is going to be the next serious challenger, because I just don't know where we're going with this anymore.
I was going to say, before I get to Jared, I was going to say, for me, this is already a bit of a setup for disaster, in my eyes, especially in the storytelling sense, or you know where we go from here when it comes to Jade. Because if the rumors are true, and if it's a thing where Taya is going to be in AEW, her first match she gets beaten by Jade. Not to say that Jade's a bad wrestler, but it's like Taya Valkyrie, Jade Cargill. It shouldn't really be a thing where Taya loses. Now, for me, what would have made sense is Jade faces just some random, has that match, and similar to how Athena kind of came in, she then turns up and says, "I'm your next challenger." Then we have the possibility and the real thought that Taya is going to beat Jade. Whereas with how it's got happening at the moment, it's like Taya's going to lose. Gerard, do you think that there's a possibility it actually is a thing where it is Taya Valkyrie and she does beat Jade on Wednesday?
Well, if they do that, the streets will be talking and talking loud. And so, you know, I don't know what the plan is in terms of how Jade Cargill loses the TNT Championship. But if it happened on an episode of Dynamite, that would get the streets talking for real. I think there are a couple of ways this could go. I think Taya Valkyrie could be that person. But I don't think Taya Valkyrie is going to be the one that answers the challenge. I really think it's going to be some random person with a Canadian flag on their trunks that we've never heard of, who's going to come down and say, "I'm the one in 53." And the answer is going to be no. Boom. And then we might see Taya Valkyrie show up. I think Taya Valkyrie
would make sense.
Yeah,
I'm here for that.
Taya is too big of a challenger to be the one to answer this and to be silenced so quickly. Like, she deserved better in the NWA and didn't get it. You know, she should be able to get that in AEW. And I think doing that, I mean, we could, if they're willing to let the story be told, let this play all the way out to Double or Nothing. You know, give us the marquee match. Taya can win the championship. And now Jade can get ready for her run in Japan and then come back and challenge for the AEW Women's Championship. Like, I think that can happen if they do it right. I think AEW's in a space where it's like, okay, let's get multiple wins happening here for us and build on this. And the win right now is to handle this Jade Cargill thing well, because I don't think it's a good move that she's not been on our TV screens in a ring in feels like a month at least, you know? So yeah, it's possible they can do it. I totally think it's going to be some random person who enters this challenge. And then when it's over, Taya Valkyrie walks through, and now we get the streets talking.
That is, for me, almost the only way this should go. For it to make any sense, to give us kind of like this whole fear, and the possibility that Jade could possibly lose the championship. And it would be a great way for Taya to come in if it is her. Again, we still don't even know. We have no idea. Could there possibly be anyone else? It could be.
I don't know. I mean, I'm looking through it could be Angelina Love, but she's right now locked in the end. Yeah, she's locked in the NWA right now. They might let her out for a one-off. That could possibly happen. Chelsea Green is signed to WWE. Gail Kim is in retirement. I don't think Rosemary's going to show up from TNA. And so, we're running out of names.
I heard the Bunny, even though she's beat her like 3,000 times already.
It has to be somebody we haven't seen, some random person that leads to something. I mean, that is what needs to make sense here. Other than that, there's not been a real challenge for her. So I think that's the move.
The first thing I did when I heard this whole challenge was happening was check the nationality of Chris Statlander.
I did that as well.
That would make a lot of sense.
I did that as well.
Yes, let's go.
Or here's a crazy old school thought. What if it's Statlander in a mask? Ooh, and she has the Canadian flag on. Ooh. And she wins, and then she unmasks as Chris Statlander.
Or she doesn't unmask, and then she plays it for a while, like what did Hogan do, Mr. America?
Oh yeah, Mr. America.
That. Yeah. That would be funny. Canada or something like that.
Yeah. And then eventually she gets found out.
Crazy. That would be crazy.
That'd be crazy.
That would be mad. In other women's championship matches on ROH, we saw Willow Nightingale versus Athena. Gerard, I'm going to let you take this one because me and Mex have both admitted we still haven't even seen what happened on ROH this past week. So I'll let you take the floor with Willow versus Athena for the ROH Women's Championship on ROH TV last week, Thursday.
Yeah, you know what? I'm excited about what Ring of Honor is doing. As we mentioned last week, it's a 2-hour show for real. So that's what we're getting every week. It wasn't just the first show and then going back to a 1-hour show. Nice. The second thing that I'm really liking is your second show main events with your women's championship. That's a big statement. And then you gave these girls time. This was not a 5-minute match. They went about 20 minutes or so. They had a match. And to me, what excites me, obviously you got 2 black women in this main event for Ring of Honor, which is awesome. But you have 2 great female competitors. True. Where Willow Nightingale has gone in the last year has been nothing short of special. But then I feel like we are finally seeing the Athena that we wanted to see when she showed up in NXT as Ember Moon. This is the Athena that got signed. She's found her rhythm. She has found competition that's suitable to her. And she's found a place where she can be vicious. She can be violent. She can be creative. That's what you want to see. So I'm intrigued. I know it's only been 2 weeks for Ring of Honor, but to watch how Ring of Honor's women's division has been handled versus AEW's women's division is really telling. It is telling. Your women are getting premium placement on Ring of Honor television. They're in main events. Their title matters. We're seeing their women's chant. It's really refreshing to see. And it's hard to believe that these 2 companies are actually under the same umbrella, because they really are very different in the way that they're handled. So shout out to Athena, Willow Nightingale. Great match. It now makes me wonder what the plan is for, Supercard of Honor. If they run this one back with some other stipulation or whatever, I would not be mad at it because it would be a worthy match for sure. But shout out to both of them for main eventing episode 2 of the new era of Ring of Honor.
So I'm guessing there's been no kind of indication as to what's happening next with the ROH Women's Championship. But I know we also saw Trish Adora
Yes.
was in a match as well.
And won. Amazing.
And won.
With let me just say this. That finisher that she has, which she calls the Lariat Tubman, which I just think is one of the greatest names for a move ever. You know, and that's what I'm talking about with their women's division. They've got great women in this ring putting on clinics, and that's on their regular weekly show. Like, this is special. So if we're leading to somehow Trish Adora getting close to the Ring of Honor Women's Championship, that's not foreign, because in the previous iteration of Ring of Honor, she was involved in that tournament. A lot of us thought that she was on her way to winning that. I wouldn't be mad to see Trish Adora, you know, get built. Now, it's going to take just a couple of weeks. They only have a few weeks, but I mean, at some point to see her in that women's title picture would be lovely. You know, so I'm loving this. We're being highlighted very, very well in Ring of Honor.
From Ring of Honor, were there anything else that stood out for you that's like kind of worthy enough to talk about on the show?
I'm just, again, I'm loving the fact that Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni are killing it. Caprice is one of the best in the game, and adding his expertise to these stories is fantastic. I also like the fact that what we're not seeing necessarily the same people every week on the show. It's completely different lineup that we got this week, which is speaking to the depth. You know, it started with a title match, the Ring of Honor TV title with Samoa Joe and Tony Deppen, and that was a great match. So to bookend it with 2 title matches is phenomenal. You know, so they did a great job on this show all the way around. Our people are being highlighted well. So yeah, I'm a fan. And maybe it's because it's behind that pay window. I don't know, but they're making it worth our while for sure.
Definitely. Moving on from AEW Ring of Honor, Tony Khan's empire, we move to now the empire of Mr. McMahon and Triple H, of course, the WWE. Raw happened last night. We are only 19 days away from WrestleMania. And one thing that's definitely certain, Gerard's probably still upset about this, but one thing that's definitely certain now is it will be most definitely Brock Lesnar versus Omos at WrestleMania. It doesn't feel like Lash is going to be involved whatsoever. But we had a first ever face-to-face, collision with Omos and Brock Lesnar. It was very interesting to see the way Brock Lesnar left that ring, the look on his face. So the two came face to face. Brock Lesnar staring up. I was going to say face to face, but staring up at Omos. And of course, then Omos basically grabbed him by the face, pushed him out the ring. It all went a little bit, didn't go perfectly to plan, but the replay looked absolutely perfect. I have to shout out that replay.
I noticed it first thing, and I was like,
what? Editing to the max. What? I don't even know what the question is here, but it was interesting. I really don't, because I'm just like, what then happens from here? In my mind, I'll give my opinion actually. In my mind, I see this as, or the only way this should really go is, we've said this before, a win for Omos. But after that, if it's a win for Omos, that man has to be pushed to the skies, because the way they are booking, or how things went yesterday, it has to be that. Mex, what are your thoughts on, especially more so the specific reaction from Brock Lesnar, and then also what could happen with Omos?
I mean, it was interesting to see the size differential between these guys. Like, Omos is actually massive. Like, because more time you put Brock in the ring with somebody, and he's kind of, towering over them as well. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting to see just that as a visual. Then they done the handshake and almost done the fist to his face, and even his fist was like 75% of Lesnar's face.
Right.
Then obviously they wouldn't release each other from the handshake. Brock went for the foot like the smaller person would do, and then tried to get the German suplex off. That backfired. We had like what you said, trying to throw him out the ring and all that stuff. And then it's like they looked off at each other and it just kind of ended. I felt like it was a bit flat. There was a good element in terms of there was like no speaking. It was just this intense kind of showdown. But then I just feel like there was no like punctuation on the segment. Like, I don't know what should have happened, but I just felt like there should have been something, like maybe almost just rolls in the ring or something like that. Like, I just felt there was something missing to punctuate the segment. And then, like you're saying, like, where do we go from here now? We've done the face off. There's still 2 Raws before this. I'm sure one of them will probably be a bit physical, but like, I'm not particularly sold on this. But I would say for sure, Lesnar is going to sell his ass off for Omos. Like, I think that much we're going to get. You know, he's going to put him over at WrestleMania. Does Omos get the win? I hope so, because if he doesn't, I do not get the point in having this. Obviously, the question, like you're saying, still remains post-Mania. Where do we go with Omos? Like, what is the next move, like, in terms of moving him up that ladder? Again, I don't know, because, like, most of us would probably agree Lesnar is only second to Roman Reigns. And you ain't giving Omos a title shot straight away. And if you are, he ain't beating Roman or whomsoever will be on top after Mania. So, yeah, it's interesting. They're clearly invested in Omos somewhat, or at least someone backstage. A particular McMahon maybe is invested in Omos backstage. But yeah, it's just, did they book this correctly? Can Lesnar get him over after Mania? What are we doing with Omos?
Gerard, what are your thoughts when it comes to this whole, you know, size difference with the two? You know, we've got people on the internet kind of like, right, I don't understand this match. What's the point in this match? Or we're not fans of Omos, for example. Well, very specifically, a lot of people are saying not fans of Omos. Is there still potential for this match to be something that people are like, oh, wow? What do you think?
I think there is potential. I think there is potential. I have been very vocal about the fact that I still don't believe this is going to happen, and that it doesn't make sense. And after some news that just recently dropped, I'm still in the position that says I'm still holding to my thoughts of Lesnar and Lashley. And here's why. First of all, I have to applaud the genius of WWE. The pure genius to tell us a match that we don't want, but then you bring out, and I said last week, for this to work, you have to present Omos as a monster. So their camera shots started it from his entrance out. And let's start with the fact that he was in a suit.
Yep.
We have not seen him in a full suit go to the ring. So him in a suit, the optics of it, and then the camera shots going from the bottom up. Brilliant move. But then there was a shot that was head on that had him walking, and it had MVP next to him. And MVP looks like a child. And you're like, oh my gosh. Like, in our heads, because we've never seen Lesnar next to Omos, we don't equate the idea that Lesnar is a whole foot taller. You know, Omos is a foot taller than Lesnar. They get in the ring. Lesnar walks up to Omos, and it's like, oh snap! Like, we've never seen Lesnar have to fight anybody that looks like this. So automatically we're vested, and we're vested because it is a challenge that seems too big for Lesnar. How's he going to pick him up? How's he going to F5 him? Can he throw him around the ring? Like, so now, and the cool thing is there were no words spoken. So we're like, okay, this is it. Wow. And I literally went, I think I want to see this. I want to see this. I want to see this. Then Lesnar goes and he grabs him and he goes to the back suplex and he can't get him. And then Omos puts his hands on Lesnar. And I'm like, here we go. and then boop, pop my balloon. Omos, you cannot convince me, sir, that you are the guy if you can't even face palm this guy outside of the ring. Are you kidding me? You can't be serious right now. Listen, and here's why it's not going to happen. Because WWE, as we saw later on Raw, edited this thing in post. And what was so cool is the commentators wouldn't even talk about it until the edit was finished. When the edit was finished, then they went, then it looked great. You can't edit a live match. You can't edit it. I'm telling you, if you can't get the face palm right over the top rope and you've got the power, what are you going to do with this man, Brock Lesnar? I am not confident at all. I wanted to be. They had me. They had me. You hear me? I was like, oh, I'm going to have to eat my words. Oh, well, listen, one of two things is going to happen. Lesnar is going to have to really pray hard and say, Lord, lay your gigantic hands on Omos. Lay him out in the performance center. Let him, roll over. Let him do whatever needs to be done, so that we can get through this one match with no issues, because I have no confidence. And here's what I think will happen. I think it's going to go down like this. They're going to sell us Omos versus Lesnar. They're going to sell it to us. And the night of the show, Bobby Lashley is going to be hot that he doesn't have a match at WrestleMania. And he's going to tear through Omos in the backstage area. And all of a sudden, when Omos is supposed to come out, and all of a sudden the cameras are going to rush and find him, and they're going to find a big man laying. Who could have done this? And then our hands are going to pump, and we're going to pump like that, and we're going to finally get the match we've been waiting for.
Yeah, let's go.
Lashley,
Book it.
It's going to happen. Y'all think that Bray is hurt? Yeah, somebody said, no, we need a ram in the bush. Because if you can't get Lesnar over, no, let's do this. Omos, we'll give you another shot at SummerSlam. But right now, it's my man Lashley. Watch. And we're going to sit back and go, wow. They carried it. Yeah, they sure did. I like I was for the concept all the way until he couldn't get Lesnar over the top rope. You mean to tell me you can't throw him out for the Royal Rumble? What? You'd have been nah. I could not wait to get on this show today to talk about this, because I'm like, Omos, you had me, sir. You had me. Me.
I was very much on the same page, and I was like, I was already invested in the match. As I've said before, as much as it's not a match I would have fought to do, not a match I would have asked for, wanted, whatever else. When it was booked, I was like, yeah, but Omos has performed when he's needed to.
Yeah.
In his bigger marquee matches or biggest matches that he's had. So I was like, all right, this is kind of gonna work. This is gonna be a good match or whatever. Then that happened yesterday, and I was like, yeah, I've not lost interest, and I haven't lost faith in what Omos is going to do on the night or the way the match is going to go. But that part was kind of like, it's almost like when you're willing a kid on, to do well. They're going to do well in sports. They're going to do well. And then just get some little thing wrong, and you're like, oh man, poor thing. If Omos was smaller than tap him on his, poor thing. Like,
and to Mex's point, I would have rethought it if he could have figured out, how do I rebound from this? If he could have figured out so what he needed to do was go outside the ring and maybe choke slam him on the side of the ring, or push him violently, or do something. That would have been that punctuation that says, okay, that messed up, but he got this right, and I believe he's dominant. We would have forgotten about that. Now we got to depend on the WWE editing team. And poor Brock is like, Give me my hat. Give me my hat. Come on, man. Give me my hat. That's what Brock Lesnar says after he has to jump over the top rope because Omos couldn't push him. Right. Give me my hat. There's your match right there. Give me my hat.
So 19 nights, fasting and prayer.
Listen, they
can change it.
Listen,
they can change it because I'm hearing what Gerard is saying, and I'm a believer. I'm about to start hosting night vigil live streams or something. Like, we have to work our way out of this some way, somehow.
That's the only way. That's the only way. Because right now, that's a no for me, dog.
Wow.
That's a no.
So our little light in the darkness is the news that was kind of circulating before Raw even was even aired yesterday, that Bray Wyatt, it's been rumored that Bray Wyatt is injured, could be out for a bit. I think he was scheduled for a live event, but didn't come out. I think it was Ringside News who put it out there, but they also then said it wasn't a confirmed rumor as well. So, you know, we're kind of like in two minds of whether Bray's going to be available for Mania. Obviously, that then jeopardizes the Bray versus Lashley match. But what was interesting today is that Lashley has tweeted, you know, kind of something along the lines of, I'm ready. I don't care who it is. I'm ready for a match at Mania. Almost to confirm that the match with him and Bray is just not happening. So I guess that's Gerard's light in the darkness of, you know, a Lashley Lesnar match. If not that be the case, who else is out there who would feel like a viable contender or a great match for Lashley to have with only 19 days left for Mania? Who in the WWE has it could Lashley face at Mania?
He could be, or ultimately that's what he's doing now. He's almost like the Joker in the pack. Like, you know, he can kind of fit into any particular role. Seth Rollins played a particular role last year of, I don't know, I road to WrestleMania. And, you know, Cody Rhodes was at the end of the road eventually. Gerard, I mean, I'm thinking if they've got this person there, potentially a Jay White, if that's the Mania match, you know, that's a strong way for Lashley to start. A lot of people at WrestleMania, like in the crowd, will know of Jay White, more so of you know, a condensed Monday Night Raw. So it could be something along those lines if, you know, all things are equal and, you know, we do get Omos versus Lesnar and what's his face, Bray Wyatt's away. But I think this also has something, you know, the Bray Wyatt side of it. They said it's come out now that Lesnar refused, you know, to work with Bray Wyatt. I don't know whether that's their own personal issue or where the story with Bray Wyatt currently is, or whatever the case is. And obviously, people are saying he is injured. Like, no one's really kind of believing what it is. He has been wrestling all the live events. He has been going up against what's his face, LA Knight, a lot of the times in live events, but maybe they're just pulling the plug on it because it's just not working. Like, whatever they're trying to do with this Uncle Howdy stuff, it's just not really working. It might not be connecting, and this is just their way of kind of sparing their blushes. Right, Bray, let's just take you out of this program. Bobby Lashley, you know, even somewhat deserves more for the year he's had. And let's see if we can work something else out. And, you know, I wouldn't mind if it's like, I don't know, and maybe obviously they play it differently. So rather than like Seth, that was kind of this heel that was kind of begging, like, how am I going to get my way there? Lashley just comes out on a dominant thing. He can beat up some Chad Gables or someone else backstage and just say, I'm coming to WrestleMania, I'm hijacking Mania, give me someone right now. And then you just hear the blade, and then Jay White is just there.
That place will go crazy.
Yeah, so possible.
Here's my thing. You mentioned Jay White, and of course, you know, we're talking about the way Seth Rollins' path to Mania last year. The other person who's doing a very similar thing is LA Knight. LA Knight's doing a very similar thing. You can't have a WrestleMania without LA Knight. all that kind of talk, and you're like, what do you mean, mate? You've been here like 2 weeks. But still, at the same time, with the way he is, the brash heel that he is, it works. He's making it work.
been
definitely.
good.
He's been very good.
He's been very good. A lot of people I've seen a lot of people saying Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, it kind of makes sense because it's kind of like, I think Austin was asked to do a program with someone. I can't remember who it was. And he's already said he doesn't want to wrestle, blah, blah, blah. But a quick little, come into the ring, hit a stunner, blah, blah, drink some beers, leave. The same kind of thing he's been doing for the last 10 years. But for me, now that you mentioned Jay White, I think that is where Jay White could come in. That for me would make even more sense. It's not just some, just a jobber match and a squash match and whatever else. LA Knight will still give him a decent match, even if it's a 5-minute thing, still be something decent. Jay White gets over, we get Jay White, blah, blah, blah. With Lashley now, I really have no idea where he could go apart from Gerard's dream. I'm going to use that as a hashtag, Gerard's dream.
I like it. I like it.
Gerard's dream.
Sign me up.
Because for me, that's the only way. Now, I don't know whether this has all been, part of the plan in the first place, and they were gonna, I'm now convinced it was never part of the plan. The whole two separate matches was the plan. Whereas now it's like, maybe we're gonna have to do this because of the Bray Wyatt situation, or because of Bray Wyatt being injured. So yeah, I mean, I don't know whether Gerard can even think past.
Well,
Lesnar,
I actually have a thought.
Still someone else.
I do, and I don't recall that this person currently has a match at Mania, and it would be very interesting, regardless of how one thing turns out, because there's story that could make this work. Perhaps he could take on Solo Sikoa, which I think would be very interesting.
I've seen that.
I mean, it would be great. It would really be great, and that could lead us to eventually a Lashley Roman Reigns clash at some point, regardless of whether or not he walks out as champion. And that would be very, very interesting. So I think there are a couple of options for them. Yeah,
of course. I think that would be very, very interesting, actually. And the thing for me is that whatever Lashley does at Mania, and if we do have Roman Reigns come out of Mania still the champion, for me the only person that makes any level of sense to then face Roman, to give us just some type of feeling that he could win, is Lashley. The only, again, we've said this for almost a year now, the only other person I can think of is Seth Rollins. But it's only, for me, it's only those two who make me feel as though that doesn't even, in my mind, it makes sense, but at the same time, I just don't think, I think it's like too early.
Okay,
for Gunther to be a realistic, the realistic person to beat Roman Reigns, be a great matches, great feud, all the rest of it. I will still be convinced that Roman's going to win.
Interesting.
Whereas with a Seth or a Lashley, it's like, oh, there's a real chance here.
I'm more in the camp of, I would believe a Seth or a Gunther would actually beat Roman than Lashley. Lashley deserves an opportunity, because it still boggles my mind how after these runs he's been on, and with the WWE Championship before and the US Championship afterwards, and how they've built him, despite you still know he's down in the pecking order. Lashley should have at least got an attempt. He should have, Kevin Owens has had 2 or so in this run. You see what I mean? Deservedly as well, but Lashley, how they've built him, definitely deserves a try. Solo, like you guys were mentioning, if that's the Mania match for Lashley, I think is good. Solo's been undefeated since he came in September or so. So to lose to someone like Lashley is, it's respectable for Solo, and at the same time, it then builds Lashley again. Like, I've beaten this undefeated guy here. Bring me your cousin, sort of thing. Again, I don't particularly think Lashley is going to be the guy to dethrone Roman, but even that as a setup for the match is good, and they're gonna have to set something up if Roman stays as champion, or if it is Cody, because even they've announced they're doing this Backlash, WrestleMania Backlash, or whatever they're calling it, Backlash at Puerto Rico. That's a stadium show now. So champion's gonna be there. There's gonna have to be a big match there, and that's more or less a month, 6 weeks after Mania. So it's gonna have to be something of some stature going into that show. So
I think that'd be a great way to do. And again, I wouldn't be upset if Lashley doesn't win, but at the same time, to have Lashley go from solo, maybe in the lead up again, we've still got 2 more Raws, a couple of SmackDowns here. If that match is set quite early on, or quite soon from now, the Bloodline maybe get involved in some way. That then leads to Lashley versus Roman at Backlash. I wouldn't be opposed to that in the slightest, regardless of whether Lashley wins or not. So yeah, I think for me, apart from Gerard's dream of Lashley Lesnar, and it's still my dream too. I just don't think it's gonna happen anymore. Apart from that scenario playing out, the only one that then still makes sense that will give us some kind of longevity would be Solo Sikoa. I think it would be a great match. It's a way better match than Lashley Bray, because I have not been excited for that in the slightest. What they've done with this whole Bray Wyatt situation, it's now starting to make me think. Talking of Bray Wyatt, it's now starting to make me think that Bray Wyatt was overrated all along, because it's never actually worked out. And I know part of that has been disagreements in terms of creative and blah blah blah, but it's now making me think, is this ever even going to work? Because it almost feels as though Bray Wyatt has so many ideas that it's too many ideas. So now, because we started when he first came back, we had the 5 people in the masks. Everyone was trying to work out who they were. Never saw them again. Then we have this Uncle Howdy thing going on. Uncle Howdy is with him, against him, took him out, helped him out. Now he's helping him. We had this whole thing with Alexa. What was that? Then he has this lights out match with LA Knight. We see like 4 or 5 people standing at the top of this thing. We don't see them again. There was no explanation. And now he randomly picks a fight with Brock or Bobby, depending on who wins. Bobby comes out on top. He's now doing the Bobby Lashley dance, the Muscle Man dance. Like, what are we?
I think Bray's ideas maybe just don't transcend into wrestling.
And that's what it is.
He came back obviously in October. A lot of fanfare. I was happy to see him back. Entrance was brilliant. I pretty much said then this is going to be nothing but an entrance, but I'll give it a go. I loved what they attempted with the Fiend, but they killed the Fiend the minute he went after the title, because these supernatural characters and titles, they don't mesh well. He would have obviously come back this time with apprehension himself, and probably set out, some guidelines as to this is how I want myself to be booked over X amount of time, blah, blah, blah. If you guys remember, they even said they brought in like some scary movie director or something like that to help with this. So between a professional Hollywood director that makes scary movies, the man that said this is my booking for the next amount of months or whatever, is this what you lot have come up with? Because if it is, bin it, forget it. It doesn't belong in pro wrestling. And it's not to say the minds aren't correct, or the people working on it. It just doesn't necessarily belong in pro wrestling. I think that's just how we have to start looking at Bray Wyatt.
And that's the sad thing. Is it's like, as I said, when he first came back and there was all those different people, it was like, oh, we're gonna get like a bit of a faction, introduce some some new faces, some people that we ain't seen in a while. Bo Dallas, for example. I think at first LA Knight and Grayson Waller were rumored as part of these 5 people that had the masks on, all that kind of stuff. So like, that would have been interesting to have Alexa Bliss back with Bray or whatever that was. Could have been interesting. So all these different things could have been interesting, that just haven't worked out. So I'm just like, all right, we got to scrap it. Let's just go back to the Swamp guy, the Wyatt family, and bring that type of thing back because that just worked nicely. But it is what it is, and we'll see if we get what happens with Lashley, if we get Gerard's dream, and anything else that happens at Mania. But guys, this has been our show. You are watching WrstlXtra on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. Check that notification bell to see when this guy Mex, the WrestleManiac, posts his reactions and stories and all things wrestling, AEW and WWE. And don't forget this guy, Gerard Bonner. You can find him on the Faction Show, Bonafide on All Good Things, and everywhere else he appears, and possibly in Lashley's dreams. Gerard's dream.
Oh, Lord.
Gerard's dream is going to be real. Lashley's going to be tossing and turning and be like, "What is going on? What is going on?" On that note, folks, let's go. See you later, guys.
See you later.